Hi, everybody.
All right, let's get real.
Let's rap. It's time to rap with the principal.
Welcome to the Management Q&A. We are the management. You have Q's, we have A's. We have a couple of microphones down here. You can feel free to come on down to the mic if you have a question, or if you need a microphone brought to you, please just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll make sure it gets to you. But you've got us for the next hour. All four of us in one place, not doing anything else, which is this may be the only hour of the week that this happens, certainly this late in the week. So thank you all for coming, by the way.
Paul, it's unsettling to me that you are 8 inches in front of the rest of us. I feel like you
should be
in line with us.
Or you could move up.
Oh.
I intentionally did the little curve thing so we could kind of see each other.
Oh, okay, good. A shoe.
Can you all turn off?
Go ahead, you can get right up on the mic.
I'm very excited to hear about the West Coast changes coming up.
Yeah, we are too.
So, open-ended question. Can you tell us anything else about it? Is it still Han America? Do you know what boat it's on?
So at this point, in 2026, West Coast, New Amsterdam would be the ship for 2026. And beyond that, it's really early. At this point, we're really focused, of course, on delivering this cruise right now, and then the next thing, the mountain of things we need to do to 2025. But yes, of course, we're super excited about going back to the West Coast. Fingers crossed, Loretto, of course, is on our mind as a thing to do as well.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I was curious.
Get right up on the mic, please.
I was curious why we don't have a booklet with pictures and bios of the talent this year.
That is a very good question. The question of why don't we have a booklet for talent like we usually have had? A couple of reasons. One, we've been under the impression, and this was my decision when it came down to it, so if you're angry about it, let me know. We have been trying to find lots of ways to reduce paper waste and waste in general. And believe me, I loved having the booklets. You may have noticed over the years, if you've been coming, they've been getting smaller and smaller and thinner and such. But it's a lot of paper. And it is increasingly easier to make this event happen mostly digitally. And it felt like we've gotten to a place where people can access the info digitally. And also, it's been several years in a row where we will print that booklet up, and then 1 to 4 artists will change between the time we have to print it and the time we actually sail. So it's frustrating to have an inaccurate booklet as well. But we mostly, we condensed a lot of the info that had been in it into the Z cards, is what they're called, those little foldable maps. But mostly, genuinely, mostly it felt like we were trying to reduce paper product on board. You'll also see, I think, that the ship themselves, compared to previous years, has so many fewer flyers and things like that show up in your office every day. And I apologize. I understand it's also a convenient place to get something signed, for example, if you're looking for something from a performer. I figured and hoped that people would figure out an alternative. So. I can't say they'll never be back, but I don't expect them to be unless if there's a clamoring and you want them back, let us know in the post-cruise survey. I'm not, dead set against ever having it happen again. So.
I just wanted a brief moment of acknowledgement. I was at the Q&A last year, and there was a lot of tension and a lot of negativity and a lot of negative feelings. And the communication from THO over the past year and some of the changes in the West Coast cruise and the expanded vegan menu and just a lot of really, really greater levels of communication that we've seen has been great. And I felt like you heard us, and we really appreciate that. Or I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, the Q&A last year was a doozy, would be a way to put it. And I think that over the course of having listening sessions with many of our guests, going through it on our own, in one case, Tinder date of mine finding the YouTube video and asking a lot of questions, we really did try to piece through our own response and our own failures during it. I think that there were some questions we didn't know an answer to, and I think that we could have come out and said that we didn't know more clearly. And that's one of the things I think that's tough as an organizer of this event is when you move an entire cruise ship around and fill it with beautifully printed signage that's taken a year to make and talent that's taken a year to contract. It looks like you're a massive organization, and there are some things that it does take us a long time to really figure out, and it took us a while to fully debrief with each other and time after the Q&A to speak with and hear from the community, and that's something that we've rededicated ourselves to after that experience. So we really appreciate you sticking with us, and you know, the other thing I'll say is that all the concerns that were raised at the Q&A, I think it was hard to hear, and we had a hard time with it, but they came from a really valid place, and we condemn the situation with Ron DeSantis in Florida and those policies, and to be unable to give a better answer on stage, like we could have done better at not knowing the answer, but that it was a difficult position. It was hard for us, and you know, so.
Yeah, and to be clear, like it was difficult and upsetting, but we bear absolutely no ill will or resentment or anything like that to the people that expressed their concerns. They were important concerns. They were hard to hear, and people needed to express their reaction to what was going on. So it's just not that anybody necessarily had that impression, but just to be perfectly clear about it. Like while it was hard, we absolutely welcome that feedback and are glad that people had the chance to express it to us directly. We, as you say, we did a lot of learning and a lot of growing, and that sounds facile, but genuinely, it was important, you know, to my own personal growth, if nothing else. So we genuinely thank everyone for that.
And briefly, if you haven't been on JoCo cruise before, pretty soon after the cruise, we will send around a survey, and really, that's such a great thing. It was difficult last year, the volume of feedback that we got, but it's super important, and all the things that Drew was talking about that we were able to do better with our communication, a lot of that is from that feedback that comes from an honest place.
Yeah, and there are many things that we've done that I have forgotten to call out. For example, Tara's done a lot of work on engaging more directly with the community, not just throughout the year, but on board. So, good job, Tara. Tara's an invaluable resource to us as well as all of you.
A particular shout out to Tara, who came up with our PROW program this year, which we've been getting a lot of great feedback on already. So thank you for that.
I'll lighten the mood a little bit. Point of order. I remember distinctly on the second cruise us putting stickers on our JoCo Cruise Crazy 2 shirts with a little raft with additional performers. So it's not like last minute changes are new to the cruise and recent.
It's true. It's not the first time we've had last minute changes, for sure.
Speaking of chaos, today's schedule, is this some sort of experiment with all of the events kind of like trampling over each other?
It's a lot of things. Experiment is one thing you could call it. Without getting too deep into the weeds, relatively late in the planning, last year we had a stage on the back deck for performances to take place back there. Relatively late in the planning on our end, we decided we were not going to have that stage. And it threw off the scheduling planning, and we already had booked a number of acts types of acts based on that type of schedule that stage would have given us. And in order to we always try and, it's my philosophy to always have every performer, the live performers, a set in a main concert, and then another set to give people another opportunity to see them solo somewhere that's not a tiny little room. And the way I did that calculus this year was to try and set one day up a bit more. It's honestly like the schedule today is more like how most music event cruises operate. They're more like a music festival where it's not so much a concern that everybody get a chance to see a given act. It's just like, here's your shows, make your plans in order to try and see them. There was a certain degree of experiment to them in as we were considering various options for the future. If we had to move to another cruise ship where the main stage didn't support 2 shows basically covering all attendees, we wanted to see how people would interact with and appreciate or not appreciate something a little more festival-like. So we'll see a little bit of that in the feedback. It's not like we're intending to move to this new schedule. It was just sort of how things could best fit to make sure everybody definitely got to see an artist once and got to see them a second time somewhere in a reasonable space. And we'll see how it all turns out.
You know how when you put up wallpaper in a room, you start here and then you go all the way around the room and then you get around to the back and it doesn't quite match up? That sort of.
One nice thing we did get, we were able to set up, we brought in the professional light rig that you see back on the CDU stage and had some wonderful dance parties back there. I like seeing the turnout for those, especially Drew's, did you all see that weird Kraken Garpulon cake from our party means flag?
Solid cake.
It's a great cake.
The most amazing cake I've ever seen.
Oh, and speaking of cakes, anybody get a chance to go to the Cake Me Away today? My phone was blowing up from people on our staff telling us how well received it has been. Might say, huge success.
I just ate a lot of cake, by the way, but that's not what I've come here to say. So just going back to the West Coast, now I know you said we're not doing any more land concerts, but the people of Loretto have waited for a long time for us to come back.
It's early, but...
I mean, I loved that land. You know, we did a number of land shows and they were never quite as satisfying. None of the other places we did them had the same ratio of like how difficult and complex it was to do and how awesome it ended up being. Loretto was always the king of that. So we haven't talked about it too much. There are a lot of other things we need to figure out, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
You haven't ruled it out, that's all
No.
I
I'd certainly say, all things being equal, we'd love to make it happen.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions to answer to do so, but it is absolutely foremost in our hopes and plans that something like it could be worked.
Yeah, the other land shows that we have done, we've needed to secure a stage, secure an area, build a stage, get the food, bring in the potties, this kind of whole. And it ends up being more expensive, it ends up taking more time for our team, it's very complicated, and there's something about, Loretto is almost like a little bit of a cruise ship, it's like you can charter the whole town, and the restaurants are already there, and they wanted to feed everybody, and so it feels homier, things are inside actual buildings, and it is the least complicated of these things that we've done, so yeah, Loretto's our first love.
And also during March and April, the chance of rain on any given day in Loretto is approximately 2%.
Before I ask my question, I just want to say thank you for this cruise. This is the first chance that my family's had a chance to come. It's also today is my wife and my 20th anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
So my question is, how do you identify which guests you're going to invite each year, and do you accept any suggestions?
Funny you should ask. The survey that Storm mentions includes a section where we absolutely welcome any and all guest suggestions, and also guests we've had on either that given year or previously that you particularly enjoyed, and also another whole section I think of guests that we may have never had that you encourage us to have. We look at every single suggestion. And there's also, you can also email us. There's a process for emailing guests as well. It's a very lengthy, complicated process of recommendations of people we are aware of. It's getting recommendations or thoughts about people who have been suggested to us that we want other people's opinions on. We try to. There's never a quota, but it is always very important to us that the lineup be as diverse as possible and across every spectrum of that term. Just because, and it's not, it's for, I don't even want us to remotely get a pat on the back for that, because it should be done, and it only makes your event better and more interesting because you're getting all these wonderful viewpoints and experiences, and that's what this is about, is sort of having awesome, interesting people you may or may not have ever had any experience with, and go home being better for it. That's what we're aiming for with all of this. So yeah, it's a lot of it recommendations from y'all, a lot of it were recommendations from performers we have on. I mean, that's how this thing has built.
Yeah, frequently somebody will, because it takes performers a while to sort of get it. It's so hard to explain what this thing is, but then you spend 24 hours here, and it's like, oh, I see. So often performers will come on board, and at the end of the week, they start skeptical, and by the end of the week they're like, I want to come every year, and also I know several people who would really love this, and you should talk to them. So that's another big way that those things happen. So, but yeah, by all means, send your suggestions our way as part of the survey, and we look at all of them. So
Thank you again, and just gotta say again how wonderful this is. Everybody on this boat, everybody has basically just been an instant friend. Everybody is so friendly and welcoming.
Thanks for being here.
I want to thank you for bringing Equality Florida on board. And one thing I noticed when Nadine gave her speech, it's none of my normal videographers took video of her pitch. And I was wondering if if it was videotaped, and if we could release it, because there were only maybe 100 people here, and it would be nice to release it to
Yeah, this year we have the Brothers of the Lens team who have set it up to record everything that happens on the main stage, and obviously we would talk with Nadine to see that she was good with that. But yeah, we would love
Because
to.
I know normally you don't release the shows outside of the ship. So
no, but we know other people do though. So
that is a cool idea, because I think that what Nadine has to say is something that's really worth getting out to a larger audience. So
agreed. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a really great suggestion.
Video of that.
And very briefly, part of the reason we got involved with Equality Florida was after the discussions of last year, and obviously the situation in Florida and everyone's strong feelings, and because of our contractual situation, we knew we were going to be locked into Florida, and we wanted to, barring being able to just, break the contract and go somewhere else, we wanted to do what we could to help fight the good fight while we are operating out of Florida, and that led us to finding that organization, and then we got to see Nadine speak just like you all did, and found it so inspiring and helpful, and we were so happy she came on board with us.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, when we saw her speak, she was sort of speaking to people in the LGBT community who were in places that felt not great to be in that community. And she was saying, look, if you need to leave, you should leave. If that's what you need to do, if that's what you need to do to feel safe and to be safe, you should do that. But if you are able to stay and fight, we welcome that also. And, one of the things that I sort of in my secret heart love about this cruise is that it is a middle finger at Ron DeSantis coming directly out of Florida. And so he doesn't want, he doesn't want this to be happening in Florida, but here we are. And that makes me very happy that we can be part of that. So, in addition to trying to figure out what else we can do, that feels like an important thing for us to keep doing, for those who are able to continue to join in this sort of standing against it.
Now Floridian can confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Trey. First, I have two quick follow-ups. But first, thank you for these. This is great.
That's another one you can absolutely thank Cruise Mom Tara for the suggestion of the assistive listening headsets.
I know some people have more trouble with comedy, and some people have more trouble listening to lyrics. And it's good to be able to, I can take them off when you three are singing, for instance.
Thank you.
So my first follow-up is just on the bios. I agree 100%. Thank you. Reducing paper. I missed a talk I really wanted to see the first day because I'm not great with remembering names, and they just say panel discussion person. So if you could like add just like the bios of the panel discussion people to the SCED or the whatever.
I mean, well, for the official events, they will usually include the names and bios of the people. It doesn't for the shadow event necessarily. I may have just missed.
At least for office hours, it definitely does not. It just has the name. So.
Okay, that may have been a slip on my part, for which I apologize.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not in the Android app, but it is on the website.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
That's a good note for the TwitArt team.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
TwitArt feature request right there.
Okay. So my bad.
Oh, you mean the Android app from SCED? Oh, okay. Please do us a favor and leave that feedback in the survey and/or email us with it, because I would very much like to pass it along to them. They would be glad to hear it.
It was during that period when the internet was coming up and down all day, the
Right,
first
right,
day,
sure.
so I had to use SCED.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the second thing is so last year I got COVID 3 days before, the year before that, couldn't come because of COVID, and so by pure accident, I ended up being online while the other people who weren't on the ship were also online talking about not being on the ship. And I heard a lot from, a lot of the same sort of heartbreaking stories from especially parents of trans and NB and queer kids who just did not feel safe. And I wanted to make a suggestion, and I don't know if this is doable, but could I suggest that you open up bookings for the West Coast a little early for people who couldn't come to the past three, this year, last year, the year before that, because of fear for their own or their children's safety? Does that...
We actually have discussed that, and it's early for us to do 2026, but thank you. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that it's not just this year. It's not just this year.
No, understood, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, Trey, sorry, I just wanted to understand a little bit more so are you suggesting just opening 26 booking in general early, or opening it targeting, finding out how to, people who have been affected
who stopped after 2020 because of fear for safety, because of Florida.
I think it might be a little difficult to isolate exactly who those people are within our records, because we don't track that sort of demographic data, but I do.
Well, I think you got a promo and put it on like the Discord and things like that. We could get
I think sort of a soft launch and a sort of honor-based. I think it's something that
we're certainly we have
a couple years to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
We're looking forward to welcoming those guests back, because it has been too long, and I know that I miss some people this year, and I'm sure that a lot of you do too.
And I'm happy to spread it through the contacts in my Discord that I talked to during the past.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Thanks.
Last year and in previous years, there was an escape room. Last year, there was an official one. This year, I did not see an escape room, either on the official or unofficial schedules. Was that an intentional decision?
It's not like we were deciding no more escape rooms. This year, the most valuable commodity on this cruise, as far as our event is concerned, is public space. Especially because we have all these shadow cruise events and we have all these things going on all the time. We have to make a lot of hard decisions. And the official escape room from last year was very popular. And we felt bad to not be able to bring it back, but just because of the events that we needed to hold, and because the configuration of the ship changed slightly. For example, the room that used to be the crafting room was taken over by the ship's photo studio. So we suddenly lost one space it's just sort of falling dominoes of, okay, we're now going to put this here, but that's going to put that there, and then this thing needs to be in a closed room. But so we didn't really have the space. And also, not that it's entirely based around the math, but the escape room can only serve a certain number of people over the course of the week. and is trying to find events and things that can be as open as possible to as many attendees as possible. And in all of that juggling, it just worked out that we couldn't really make the escape room happen this year on the official schedule. As far as the Shadow Cruise, that's whoever wants to run it either didn't attend or decided they didn't want to run one. But we're always open to, if somebody wants to do one of their own in the Shadow Cruise, we can look into making that happen. It just depends on what people submit. So it's in no way to say that we never want to have an escape room back. It's just sort of part of what are we doing to help keep the event fresh, so it's not just the same thing over and over and over again, and also just what are the spaces available and what time do we have to make things happen. So that's what went into that. It's just more of that complicated calculus of trying to fit everything into this ship.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Just before we go forward with this question, is there anybody out there who needs a microphone brought to them so far? No? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Do you need a microphone? Back here? Back there, Jen. Will you raise your hand a little higher? There you go. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
In the meantime, go ahead.
Just want to say a big thank you for the cake buffet. It meant a lot to me personally.
Wasn't our doing.
Oh, well, then I'll thank the cake.
It was. we told them to. Yes. That's
you can thank the culinary department on board.
To be fair, the ship said we can do this, and we said yes.
Do it.
Do it a lot.
We didn't remove the cake buffet from you.
Yeah, and you also took away the salad bar, which was great. So.
No salad, only cake.
Yeah. Have you guys considered booking performers for kids? I see a lot of kids on the ship. I have kids, but I don't bring them.
Yeah, They Might Be Giants is coming in 2025.
Yeah, we have occasionally tried to book performers, maybe not an exclusively kids performer, but we've had a number over the years who also perform kids' music.
Nerf Herder?
Yeah, well, Mike Furman did a kids show, and
Nerf Herder.
Nerf Herder did a children's set back then. There's been a number of them. The McElroys did the children's Disney dance along, play along event. So we always try and find some programming that is child appropriate at least, and hopefully some of it child focused. But yeah, thank you. That's absolutely great feedback to know that it's been well received, and we need more.
Let's go back here in the audience here.
So I've got two questions. One is, I don't know, this is my third year, but it's hit me that we're not like a super racially diverse crowd, and I'm wondering if there's I know a lot of the sci-fi conventions do partial scholarship applications, essay contests, where people can maybe get some money off of traveling to the convention, or traveling to, in this case it'd be traveling to the ship or something, or maybe we could people could throw maybe $10 extra into the pot when they sign up, and whoever needs it can maybe send in an application to you guys or something like that.
Yeah, we've looked at programs like that. There was a now I believe defunct nonprofit organization, Con or Bust, who we were able to work with, and they helped in sort of organizing targeted cabin giveaways to people of color in order to try to bring some more diversity into the attendee base on board. And that is on our radar too, and it is something that we continue to look at. And if you look at the four of us, you might imagine that we do have blind spots, actually, about how to do that best. So we welcome the feedback, and that's one of the groups in the community that Tara and I have been working on listening to more, so that we can try to get more of a sense of how we can do that outreach in an effective way and work to change those numbers for the better.
And there's one more thing that I've been wondering, and that's I noticed that Holland America now has 3 bigger ships. Is that on the radar for the future, or?
So every year we look at the ship options for us, and obviously we're quite partial to Holland America. They just get charters so well, and you see it in things they do, like the passengers that were on their other ship, and it was the ship that offered to do this grand procession. It comes down to what we think demand is for the event. Going up in ship scale, it's greater risk. And what will work for the event. Paul was talking about the venues and this, if you wanted to call it an experiment with programming, because we were looking, what are the range of ships, and part of that was for growth, and part was if this type of ship is all we have as an option for the West Coast, we would have to adapt our program.
Yeah, one of the things that the industry seems to be moving toward with the newer hardware, as they say, is more smaller spaces, which is harder for us to program the same way that we program this.
Yeah, just as one example, the next highest level of ship in the Holland America fleet, it fits several hundred more passengers, but the main theater fits 200 fewer people. Which means that
couldn't do a 2-show night.
Yeah, you couldn't even fit everyone in a 3-show night, the way the math works out, if everyone wanted to attend, which would, for example, if we were to move to that size ship, we would have to restructure how our event runs and be more festival-like, which is not to say that can't be done, but that is a fundamental shift in people's expectations of how these events happen. And there's plenty of charters that operate that way, and it's not like it's impossible, but it would be a hefty haul, and we'd have to really be confident in making a change like that.
We'd have to have Red Team 1, Red Team 2, Gold Team 1, Gold Team 2.
Well, and we were in port with the New Staten Dam, which is one of those larger Pinnacle class ships, yesterday. And one of the things I think you may have seen in the difference between the two ships, or a difference that we noticed, was this is the most chartered ship in the Holland America fleet, and it has the charter ringers on board serving. And the New Staten Dam is a great ship, but I don't know that there's any team on any of the rest of this fleet that would have organized that gigantic Lord of the Rings 1,000 extras situation we had down on the dock yesterday. The team on board here is such a pleasure to work with, and it is difficult to overstate how much the onboard team makes JoCo Cruise so special. We also
they really get us. And that's an element that goes into our decision making when we talked about, could we move to another cruise line if we need to not sail out of Florida anymore? And not that it's the only reason, but we love working with Holland America. They understand us. They have gone to bat for us numerous times, including putting this ship on the West Coast in 2026. That wasn't just a thing that happened. That was a thing that happened in dialogue with us. Not that we made it happen, but they have done numerous things along the years for us like that, and we appreciate and value that relationship with them. So
They really are partners along with Worldwide Cruise. So a hand for them too, because it makes all the difference.
And yeah, where it fits in the future, we don't know, but our current thinking on scale is that we think that in order to keep the kind of classic cruising model of show dinner, and to keep the feel of JoCo Cruise, we'd really rather go to 2 cruises per year than to try to bump up a ship size, and that's a big stretch also. So
if demand allows.
Yeah.
It's twice as big.
Yes.
I think you moved from that microphone when there wasn't a microphone there, so... Oh, okay, all right.
All right, so you might have kind of answered this question already, but are you committed to the cruise format, and has there been analysis of a stable ground, foundational sort of event?
A thing with earth instead of ocean underneath it?
I call it a ground cruise, like you're just...
Land cruise.
We have discussed it over the years, and we always look at it, especially after last year, we said, well, could we do this as a land-based event? And it could be possible, but it would be tremendously difficult, in part because we've been doing this since 2011, and the event, the logistics, the culture, everything is keyed to this unique environment that we have. And we look at, there's so many events out there, how can we recreate that without all of these elements? And we think there could be a possibility, but it comes down to venue and just the difficulty in doing it. And to do that, we would have to be doing that, inventing this new thing whose financial model and programming model would be totally new while we are still running our full event. And we don't have a tremendous staff. We're a very small organization. I even hesitate sometimes to
year-round.
Right. It's almost funny to call us a company. You know, like we're put everybody in one room to have dinner over a small table. So it's absolutely something we're always looking at. We think could be cool, and maybe there is a day where we can pull it off.
And to be clear, it's not just a question of it's too hard to figure out. It's more like, you know, we feel as though we've gotten really good at putting on this particular event, and for us to switch to a different kind of event that is so fundamentally different, whether it's something that takes place on land over the course of the long weekend, say, or even just going to a different shaped or sized ship or a different cruise line, it's enough of a change that we would want to do that in a very considered and careful way, so that we were able to offer something that was good
and that feels like this experience.
It feels like this, yeah.
There you go. That was actually one of the first ideas we had before we did a cruise.
Train. We talked about doing a train cruise.
The bus
didn't make any sense.
Tour. The bus tour was the first one.
A bunch of buses.
We pick up a different guest along the way. It was just weird.
We all stop along the New Jersey Turnpike, and John Hodgman is there in front of the nation's hot dogs.
Yeah.
It would have been a funny joke for the first couple of days, and then we're like, no, thank you.
We're on a bus.
I mean, I work so closely with our operations team and the team on board, and absolutely, we understand. You know, land is where humans live.
Put that on a shirt.
But so much of what makes this special is that there are over 800 crew on this ship, plus the 120 that we bring, and from the custom cakes to the twice daily room service, to the fact that there's an all-inclusive food option on these Holland America ships that actually doesn't taste like bad, it tastes great. Like that is something that at anywhere near this price point is really difficult to set up on land, and would require not just restructuring the feel of the event, but also completely restructuring how we staff it. And so it would be quite difficult.
But I do like the idea, and I hope we are able to do it one day.
Yes.
I really do like the idea.
Because it's easy for us to say, oh, we can stand on any stage and sing, and then every time we say that, Drew gets a more pained expression.
Okay, I started with one comment, became two, and listening to everything else, I've got 4 now. One is, expect me next year to have a t-shirt that says land is where humans live.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 2, I want to reiterate what you said. The crew here is fantastic. I make every effort to tell them that every time I encounter them anywhere. And they are having loads of fun looking for stamps. It's fantastic. The other comment is, I agree with Jonathan over here, and I had to make a lot of choices of whether to come back through as a trans individual, and I made the decision to do just as you said. Fuck you, DeSantis, I'm here. And the comment that I started my reason for coming down here is to say, Drew, your hair has settled in nicely from last night.
Good cut, good cut.
You're very kind.
Well, we thank you and we appreciate you for making that choice. Everyone has to make the choice that works for them, but thank you for that.
So I have the most ridiculous of nitpicks.
I can't wait. Go ahead, come from away, hit us with it.
So my family really enjoys the ridiculousness of the Mr. Fancy Pants parade. And I'm wondering, when we have Jonathan Coulton on the boat, why don't you do it live with your little thing and the cuteness of the...
This is a good question. Why don't I perform Fancy Pants live for the parade? You know, it's not that easy to play. I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of buttons. I have to remember where they are. I have to keep time with myself and also with various samples that are playing. And it uses 100% of my brain. And I would not be able to see or judge any of the pants if I did that. I would just be an unthinking, fancy pants playing automaton.
That said,
1 year.
1 year, when we were on Royal Caribbean.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a playback. I was there and Jonathan was there.
I can't remember, was it a technical failure or?
The playback just was not working for some reason. And it ended up being Jonathan singing a cappella with me underneath going, hooka daddy, hooka daddy, hooka daddy, It was one of the more glorious moments and one of my favorite live performance moments ever.
It sounded like, where did my life go wrong? That's how it felt.
Hey, pardon me, sorry. Two things, one for food and beverage and your decisions about food and beverage. I want more Indonesian food. I want a rice taffel meal, not an Indian meal. I can have an Indian 7 days a week in a different restaurant all year. I want rice taffel.
Bring a t-shirt next year that says that.
If there is one, I'll wear it. I'll make it on board. And the second one is behind the scenes tours. I know that Holland America does them. I know that they do them since COVID. And we have a bunch of people on board who like infrastructure just a little bit.
Can't say why.
And I don't know how this ship works. I want to know more. I want to see where the diesel leaked.
That's one of my favorite Bob Seger lyrics, yeah.
We actually have generally been told that the vast majority of tours are no longer being done on this ship, but we will ask again, because that is something that comes up every year, and some of us had the opportunity to look at it before the pandemic, and it's really neat. The ship also did put together a presentation, a video presentation that gives you a look into some of those spaces. It's not the same, but it is a fun time as well. So.
Oh yeah, they
I
do
was on
have.
the last one that they did on the JoCo on the West Coast, and they ended up auctioning. Like they kept calling and saying, "Can we entice you away?" Because they had so many people who wanted to be on it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So they do have now. We were on the site inspection where we do the cruise several weeks before the cruise, and for retail sailings, they have a program called City at Sea, where because it was so popular, they realized they could not meet demand. Where it is this involved presentation, but just the way our programming worked out, we were not able to do that for our sailing.
Yeah. I mean, that said, we will certainly pass along the feedback. Gosh knows, there's a lot of.
Yeah, I want to get back there too.
Yeah, me too.
The engine room. Not allowed.
Yeah. We are. That's 4:48 right now. We're going to try and get through all the questions we have. Is there anyone else? One last check. If there's anyone else who needs a microphone brought to them, feel free to raise your hand. We want to make sure we get everyone's questions in. Okay. Go right ahead.
Hi. I was thinking more about the gentleman who brought up diversity, and I've been coming since 2015, and so first I want to give, this has been a recurring topic, and I actually want to give kudos in that I think there's been a notable increase in gender diversity and a notable increase in the LGBTQ community representation here. So you know how to increase diversity, and I have two suggestions. And first I want to say that I actually had friends who took advantage of the cabin giveaway, but the majority of, for example, African Americans, they make in the middle or above quintile in income in the United States. So I wouldn't make the assumption that it's an income-related issue. That's great if people need it, but I wouldn't assume that this is an income-related issue. But it is a community-related issue. So I think one of the things you could do is explore, talk to people about how those other areas increased, what made those communities grow. And it's also comes back also to the guests. So I will give you an example of another event. TED, always talks about diversity, but all their diversity is represented in musical artists or performers. But when it comes to the thought leaders and thinkers, they all still are pretty much white and mostly men. So I'm not saying you do that, but I'm saying you could take a look at, there are big blurred communities, for example. There are big nerd communities out there that intersect with people of color, and those are the people that you could reach out to and find leaders from those. And I think that because we're a community of nerds more than we're a community of singers or rappers or authors, we do all those things maybe, but so I would actually go to the source of nerdery and like...
Source of nerdery.
Source of nerdery, and build it from there.
That's actually, we have had conversations with a number of folks in something that we know the work we need to do. Some advice that we got is you need to meet whoever it is that you want to bring in, you need to meet them where they are.
Right, yeah.
And to not say, hey, people that we want to have come to our event, come over here. But we need to outreach and go to these events and meet people and have them understand what we do and participate in what they're doing. And then bring them back and say, hey, and why don't you help us? And what would be appealing to you to come on this event? So it's very much on our minds and work that we need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Should we cut off the adding of new questions?
Yeah, let's cap the lines where they're at here right now, and we'll try and get through everyone.
All right, well, this is not just my girlfriend's first JoCo cruise, it's our first cruise ever, and what best do you want to start from?
They're all exactly like this.
Yeah. Now, I have been to Jonathan Coulton and Paul Storm concert twice already.
Can you move a little closer to the mic, sorry.
It's kind of raise this. There we go. I'm not that short. The last two shows you guys did in the Birchmere have been the only ones I've ever seen, and it was great. My complaint is, this is with Mr. Paul and Storm. I'm sorry, guys. You guys have so many good songs outside of the classics. It's like I hear like, yeah, I love the classics. What about this one? What about that one? So it's like last night, I enjoyed it last night so much. And it's like, the Screw Crew Moon, there's like the little bits here from News to Us. There's so many good songs you guys have. It's like a bit of a change. It's like, oh man, I want a little bit more. 45 minutes, that's not enough. That's an hour and a half.
That's kind of you to say.
So your comment is more Paul and Storm.
More Paul and Storm. All right. So, good night, everybody. Thank you. We appreciate that. Part of the programming decision for that is people see a lot of us throughout the week. We're in the opening concert, we're in the closing concert, and we do our thing. Even if we're not doing as much of our own original stuff necessarily, we want to be sure, my priority in programming is making sure that our other performers are properly represented, and occasionally, like last year when we had the backstage, we had an event that was just a half hour of the Captain's Wife's Lament, and that helped bring that out. Unfortunately, we didn't have that available to us this year. And then also, we're doing a lot over the week, and we get real tired.
It's a great opportunity for everybody on this stage to lose their voice on day 3.
But no, thank you for that. We're always trying to strive for a proper balance, and it is very good to hear from a fan.
Yeah, thank you. When can we expect Paul and Storm featuring Jonathan Coulton?
That's over my dead body.
Yeah. For about 2 months in 2005, that happened.
So, the hand washing challenge in the Lido, it's only one sink, and I think that it would be a good idea to have it be a big event like the shipwide chess match, where almost every hand washing station on the ship that's available to customers has the little tally marks, and you have to, each of the sinks is counted individually as 1 point.
Okay.
So if gold team's winning one sink and red team's winning another sink, that's 1 point for each of them. I think that would make it so that less people get sick.
Competitive hygiene is the answer.
And then the real trick is for teams to recruit the obsessives. Just going from sink to sink all day. Go right ahead.
Yes, I really appreciate the late night gaming snacks, which is more of a late night gaming full meal. It's pretty darn impressive if anyone hasn't had any of it. But it would be really nice if after the red team show, you go up to the Lido deck and there is a desert. Could there be cookies or something, just grab and go? And something after the red show. Just a little something because we've been sitting here listening to wonderful stuff and then we go up and desert.
This is a valid concern, and it is again part of the dance of staff on the ship. There's only so many hours that the kitchen staff can work, and in trying to adjust their schedule to work with how our attendees' schedules genuinely work, that time period is sort of the least obtrusive because the red team has at least just come from dinner a couple hours before. We know it is not a satisfying solution for everyone. There's no real absolute solution. But that said, if we can absolutely bring up if there's some way to make some sort of grab and go cookie type options available. We'd love to try and make that.
If you would definitely put that in your response in the survey. And I will say that we also on a daily basis are going over with the food and beverage manager the stats on how many people go to which servings, and it is very much a moving target that we're trying to pay attention to and adjust for how the flow moves. But so we absolutely love feedback that's like this. Very helpful.
We do run a custom food and beverage schedule on the ship, and that this current version is, I think, we've had it for the past couple years, but we do appreciate that feedback, and it is part of the dance. So, but we'll take that into consideration.
Go right ahead.
So my experience every year is that I get exposed to some fantastic new performer, and I want to see them in the real world afterwards, and then I get busy, I forget, and I'm just wondering if there's maybe some opportunity to give the performers some forum for sharing their plans for the future, places they're going to appear in real life.
Sure. Our we started a Discord server last year, 2 years ago.
2021 now.
3 years ago. And it is sort of at this point on our end the default official sort of meeting place and posting place, and we encourage the performers, for example, if they are interested in joining and promoting and being a part of the community, and hopefully more of them will take them up on that. But no, that's a very good suggestion. Yeah, absolutely.
Check your regional group on the Discord.
Yes, there are also regional groups on the Discord that will discuss about when a given performer or previous performer will be appearing in that area. It's a very vibrant discussion. That whole Discord is sort of overwhelmingly wonderful
And what's great about that is it's like mini reunions throughout the year where JoCo cruisers get together, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, actually the reason I asked the question is I learned about Jukebox the Ghost coming to our town 2 days after they appeared.
Well, and definitely if there's an artist that you see on the cruise who you really love, get on their mailing list, and they'll appreciate it, or follow their social media. And even if you don't like social media, getting those notifications from the artists that you love, it does really directly support artists, because that's
and it also makes us look good. The JoCo cruise effect. If they see a huge, Jim Boja in particular has talked about this. He'll go to play in some city, and there will be a bunch of people from JoCo Cruise there, and I've heard that from a number of artists. And it's it's cool to think about.
Absolutely. That is all the time we have. Thank you all so much for coming to this event.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks so much.